Everybody at some point in their life has met someone who they would consider to be truly likable. These are the types of people who, when you have a conversation with them, you feel understood. You feel like they're really paying attention to you, they value you as a human being, and they see the very best in you. No matter where these types of people go, it seems like they have friends. It seems like people tend to acknowledge them and elevate them to this divine status. And it sounds kind of crazy, but that's why it's so rare. I honestly feel like I can only name like 2 or 3 people I have ever met who genuinely fit that description. And it seems like the more likable of a person you are, the more the world opens up to you. You know, people just enjoy being around you. They always want to invite you to things. They always want you to be part of what they do. And you can probably take a look at that and say, well, that's absolutely not fair. They don't deserve it. They're not better than I am. But it doesn't make it any less true. The more likable of a person you are, the more people like you. You know, some people are extremely likable and others are very difficult to like. And the people who are likable tend to do way better in almost every area of their life compared to people that no one really wants to be around. I've really thought a lot about what makes someone likable and what makes somebody that person love being around. Like, what's the actual common theme? And can we implement those behaviors into our own lives so that we're just generally more likable as a person? Well, you might have some resistance towards this proposition because you might be thinking like, oh, why would I want to be more likable? Why should I worry so much about what other people think of me? You're focusing on the wrong thing. You should focus more on yourself, your own happiness, and then people who don't like it can go away. But I genuinely think that's overly simplistic and foolish, and if you think that way, you're not going to get very far in life. Especially if you already struggle with people and you think that way, oh, just being more of yourself is going to help for some reason. It's like, how has that worked out for you? Because when it comes down to it, we're creatures of habit. What we think is just part of our personality might just be a conversational tick or bad habit that we've picked up over conditioning, over the role that we played in our friends' circle or our family, and it could actually be making us more abrasive of a person than necessary. For instance, if you find it difficult to make good eye contact with someone while you're talking to them, and it just feels like a habit that you have, you tend to look down all the time. And if I told you that if you make better eye contact with people and you got more comfortable with making eye contact with people, it by no means means betrayal of your personality. There are certain things that you do that make a difference in how you are perceived by others. So in this video, I'm just going to talk off the cuff about things that I've noticed about the most likable people I've ever met. And then hopefully we can try to figure out how to implement some of those behaviors and those mindsets to make us more likable and more enjoyable to be around so that we can uplift our lives and have a better time with being social and interacting with people, leaving people better off than when we found them. So the first thing that you must do if you want to increase your likability is that you have to acknowledge that nobody really cares about what you say more than they care about how you make them feel. How you make people feel when you're around them is the most important thing. That's the thing that leaves a mark on people. In fact, most of the time, people aren't going to really remember the things that you said when they go home after you interacted with them. They're definitely going to remember how you made them feel. As they say, good manners make good first impressions. They have a lot to do with how well people like you. Here's a good example. Let's say you're at work, and there's one coworker who always makes you feel like you're messing up, even when you're doing okay. And then there's Alex, another coworker of yours. He notices when you're overwhelmed and walks up to you and says, "Hey, you handled that meeting like a pro. Seriously, that last point you made about the client strategy, nailed it. Most people didn't even seem to notice you were speaking." And then you say, "Thanks. I was kind of nervous, honestly." Alex smiled and said, "You had everyone locked in. Honestly, I was taking mental notes." And that one sentence, it flips your whole mood. Suddenly, you're not just someone trying to keep up. You feel seen, capable, and respected. Then Alex adds, "By the way, I'm grabbing coffee in a bit. Need a break too?" Not only did they compliment you, but they gave you space to decompress. No pressure, no judgment, just presence. That's what makes him so likable. He don't try to be, he just care enough to notice and say something when it matters most. Every interaction that you have with somebody is like that. It's the vibe that you give off. Is it one that is encouraging and empowering and collaborative, reciprocal? Or do you feel kind of expendable? Like they don't really care about your situation, your uncommon perspective. They don't really care about any advice that you have to give. What they really care about is that spark. And that spark is the energy you give off. How do you make that person feel when they're around you? If you're interacting with somebody and you're tensed and you are performative, then they're going to be tensed and performative as well. The most likable people on planet Earth realize this. They put people at ease because they're at ease. And that's what good manners do. They make everyone feel at ease. They feel so comfortable with conversation, with eye contact, with being playful. They realize that people like you when you make them feel important and valued. You might hear that and say, okay, what am I supposed to do then? Am I truly supposed to just be a pushover and just never voice my thoughts on things and make people feel so special and comfortable and listen to all of their problems and never talk about my problems or my life and just be like an interviewer? Well, that's not the case. And that's never the way it works out, because 9 times out of 10, when you're genuinely interested in someone else and you act genuinely interested in someone else, they feel special and they end up liking you more. And when someone likes you, they're more likely to ask you questions about yourself. So it's almost like you have to give first and then receive. Another thing you might say is, what I'm just supposed to act as if I'm interested in what they're saying. Like, that's not very genuine. I thought that good connections came from authenticity and honesty. So if I'm not honestly interested in what they have to say, then the entire friendship is built on a disguise. But here's a weird thing that I've noticed, is it's almost contradictory, because the people who are most comfortable with who they are and the life that they live are usually the people who are the least desperate to talk about themselves. But in some scenarios, it's not always like that. Most people are dying to be truly heard. People are dying to be called by their name, to be looked in the eye, to feel like, man, I don't know if that guy really cares about me, but I sure feel like he does, and that makes me feel good about myself. That's the key to likability. So I really think it all boils down to a few things. If you want to be the most likable person that you can be, the most likable version of yourself, then firstly, you have to live a life that you like. You have to admire the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, or at least not actively participate in something that ruins the thought of yourself. Because if you dislike yourself, then curiosity in other people is hard to come by. You can't simply afford to be curious about other people because you need their validation. You need them to validate you instead. But people who are secure in themselves and their lifestyle will find that, they don't necessarily need people to comment on their life because they like their life. So then they can actually have fun with conversation and ask questions that they find interesting and be interested in the other person. And as a result of that, the people that you're listening to will say, wow, I think I like this person. I want to ask them questions about their life. And then that's when that reciprocity can get going. And these are just some things that I've had. The people that I think are most likable in life not only like themselves, or at least carry themselves like somebody that they admire, they treat themselves with respect. And because of this, they're able to go into a room and not be desperate for other people's approval. They can sit there very comfortably and easily ask people follow-up questions about their life and be genuinely curious, because there's a lot to learn from people. There's absolutely a lot of things that people have gone through that you can imagine and that are genuinely interesting, and they can't wait to tell you, but no one ever asks. So, that's it. Let me know what you think of all that. I'd be super interested in hearing what you've observed about the most likable people in your life. And you know, when I say the most likable person you know, someone may probably pops into your head. What makes them likable? Comment below. And if you like this video, check out my previous ones too. Honestly, they didn't exactly get along with the algorithm. But you know what? I actually dropped some gems in there. Real ones. Stuff that'll stick with you way after the scroll. So if you want to dig deeper or just support a video that deserves more love than it got, go give it a watch. Your click might be the one that revives it from the algorithm graveyard. Be sure to subscribe also. Other than that, thanks for watching.